Assassin's Creed Shadows takes place in the 1500s in feudal Japan, something all of us wanted for a long time. The game features a canon mode that basically makes all the choices for you and tells us the story Ubisoft wanted to tell. When you pre-order the game, you get the first DLC, Claws of Awaji, for free. This DLC will feature 10 hours of extra content. Shadows features a dual protagonist system. The first protagonist is Naoe, an assassin trained by her father, and the second protagonist is Yasuke, an African samurai, according to Ubisoft. The missions are tailored to a certain playstyle. Some of them are good for stealthy playstyle and some of them are more combat oriented. Before a mission starts or during a mission, we'll get a choice to play as Yasuke or Naoe. If it's a combat mission, then choose Yasuke, otherwise choose Naoe, since Naoe is far weaker than Yasuke in combat. You can choose to play as another character in the middle of a mission, but some missions like story missions locks you out of this option. So in those situations, if the mission is too hard with your current character, you'll have to load an older save file, play the mission again, but this time choose the right character. Also, you can choose to play as one character throughout the whole game. Like if you want that full assassin experience, you can play the whole game as Naoe, but some missions are going to be hard, especially the combat missions. Shadows also has an immersive mode which makes all the NPCs speak their native language. Here that would be Japanese and Portuguese. You can turn this feature on and off whenever you want. This game is huge, but it's not as big as Valhalla. The story mode is speculated to take around 40 hours to complete, and 100%ing or getting platinum trophy might take a lot longer. The map is also not as big as Valhalla. It's definitely the RPG size. It's said it's as big as the Origins map. Shadows features a superior destructible environment system that lets you destroy a lot of things in your surroundings, like the baskets, doors, boxes, and more. Shadows also features this dynamic weather system that changes the way you approach the game, and the enemies react differently during different weathers. For example, in spring season you could swim underwater, but in winter season that lake would be frozen, so you won't be able to swim. We'll see 4 seasons in the game. Those are spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and these changes applies to the entire map, unlike Valhalla. Inside these main seasons, we'll also have weather changes like raining, snowfall, thunderstorm, and so much more like that. These weather changes can also affect how you approach a mission. For example, when it's raining, the gods won't hear your footsteps that clearly. It makes it easier to do stealth compared to other weather conditions. Each season is going to last 2.5 hours in the game, and you can choose to stay in a certain season or you can choose to switch to a new season when the requirements are met. The Eagle Companion has been removed in Shadows. Apparently, this makes scouting and marking enemies a lot easier. The developers didn't want to do that in Shadows. If you want to synchronize a viewpoint or climb any tower, Naoe can use parkour and her new grappling hook to climb, but if you use Yasuke, then you'll have to climb inside the tower using the stairs. Huge parts of the maps and activities won't unlock immediately when you synchronize at a viewpoint anymore. You have to observe markers manually, and you'll have to visit those places in person to know the specifics of that particular activity. This is to encourage exploration in Shadows. This observe mechanic can be used on the ground too, to identify the enemy levels, marking enemies, and even finding out your main target. Since Naoe is an assassin, she can use eagle vision, while Yasuke is the other protagonist, he cannot use eagle vision. The main story has 13 different targets. We'll be hunting them down throughout the game. We also have all the optional targets and character specific missions for Naoe and Yasuke, and even for our allies. The allies are found in the open world. Once you meet them and finish their first quest, you can recruit them. Our allies are going to have their own storylines, and some of them are even romanceable. The allies has their special abilities, like they can put enemies to sleep, assassinate them, distract them, and do things like that. And you can upgrade your allies 3 times, making their tools more effective. At a time, you can have 2 allies equipped in your loadout, and based on the situation, you can call your allies and they'll help you out. But there is a cooldown before you can call them again. Shadows also introduces scouts. These are random NPCs you can save during world events, and they'll act as scouts and gather information for you. You can assign these scouts to discover areas, find clues, information, or to find your target. Placing more scouts in the same area will increase their search radius, which might result in more clues about your targets. If you want to recall your scouts, you can spend some money in your assassin hideout, or you can wait till the season changes. These scouts can also smuggle items for you. These items are required to upgrade your hideout. You find the needed items and tag them, and your scouts will bring them back to your hideout. These scouts can also reset your notoriety meter. You don't have to go around and tear posters anymore. When your notoriety meter is full and when you're wanted, you'll be hunted by powerful enemies called the Guardians in this game. If you want to escape this wanted status, then you'll have to switch to the other characters, use scouts, or wait till the season changes for the wanted level to disappear. In combat, you can build up adrenaline by fighting enemies, and then you can use that adrenaline for your special attacks. Enemies will have a health bar and a yellow armor bar. When you fight them, you can visually see the armor breaking. There is a posture attack system, something like Unsheath, which requires you to go into a stance to unleash attacks. These attacks can deal so much damage compared to normal attacks. The enemies can interrupt you while you're charging up your posture, since you cannot defend yourself when you're in this position. Your enemies can do 3 types of attacks. The first attack has a white glow, which means you can block or parry those attacks. The blue glow means a flurry of attacks are coming, so you should be ready to block or parry multiple attacks. Finally, the red glow attacks, those are unblockables, which you have to dodge, otherwise you'll take damage. Dodging attack is different for both characters. Naoe dodges an incoming attack by rolling, and Yasuke sidesteps out of the way. Once you progress enough, you can unlock perks that will allow you to parry these red attacks as well. After doing a perfect parry, Naoe will position herself at the back of the enemy. This will allow her to do a lot of damage. If you parry all the blue attacks with Yasuke, the enemy will stagger for a second. You can do massive amounts of damage using that window. In open combat situations, Naoe can die easily since the enemies can all attack at the same time. On the other hand, Yasuke can take more hits, making him the right choice for open combat. Both characters has weapons that are suitable for close range, crowd control, and long ranges. Yasuke has a Teppo rifle, which is a loud long range weapon, and you can reload it faster if you can time the QTE perfectly. You can apply debuffs in this game. Bleed, poison, daze, and knockout are the 4 debuffs you can apply to the enemies in the game. Bleed does massive amounts of damage in an instant. You know how poison works. Daze makes the enemies lose balance or dizzy. Knockout basically knocks out the enemies for a certain amount of time. They'll wake up later. The enemy camps and castles have servants. They won't fight you. Instead, if they spot you, they'll run and bring gods to the place where they last seen you. We have enemy types as well. We have outlaws, those are basically bandit equivalent. Then Ashigari soldiers and Ronin, which are harder enemies. These Ronins are well trained, they have their own movesets, and some of these are resistant to stealth tools like smoke bombs. You'll have to be very careful when you fight these guys. Then we have the Samurai Daisho. You can find these guys in the castles and camps. And finally, the Guardians, which we talked about earlier. Sometimes these Guardians will be guarding legendary chests in the castles. You'll have to defeat them if you want to access that chest. Also, when an enemy calls for reinforcements by ringing a bell, the Guardians will spawn there and they'll try to kill you. Shadows also has bounty hunters. They'll be roaming the map and won't display any icons. They'll only attack you when a bounty is placed on you. The game also has an expert stealth mode option, which makes the NPCs more aware of their surroundings, making stealth really challenging. When you stealth kill an enemy and the body is discovered, instead of ringing the bell immediately, the gods changes their patrol routes and searches for you. If they spawn the Guardians by ringing bell every time, that would be annoying, so that's why. In Shadows, you can go prone, which unlocks a lot of stealth options and generally makes you less visible. You can interact with lights and put them out, or you can destroy them. This will increase your stealth option even more since you'll be basically invisible in Shadows. You have two different skill points in this game. The first one is mastery points and the second one is knowledge points. The max character level is level 60. You level up both characters simultaneously and you can unlock abilities on both characters at the same time. Each weapon loadout has different types of skill trees and a lot of skills. Apparently, you need 300 skill points to unlock all the skills. Knowledge ranks, which are different from our regular skill trees. If I have to explain this simply, you have to train your mind before learning new skills, if that makes any sense. You can increase your knowledge rank by doing side activities, praying in shrines, meditating, basically activities that strengthens your mind. You can also activate temporary buffs by praying in shrine, so before you start a story mission, maybe you can go to shrine and activate these buffs. There are underground caves, which are basically parkour section which you can complete to earn armor pieces. You cannot hunt wild animals in Shadows. Instead, you can sneak upon them and make a painting of them, which will give you a knowledge point. You can also pet animals in Shadows. Cats and dogs are being my favorites. And also, when you paint a wild animal, you can spawn them in your hideout. Both characters can equip a main weapon and a secondary weapon, and on the armor side they can equip a headpiece and a chest piece. Then you can also equip trinkets. The armor pieces has a rarity system, the lowest being the gray items, then uncommon items which are green color and they also have a perk. Then the blue items that has a perk and an empty slot for you to add another perk. Then the epic or the purple items that are actually sometimes stronger than the legendary armors according to the developers. This also comes with a perk and an empty slot. You can add your own perk on that. Then finally the legendary armor or the gold armor pieces. These contains perks that are handpicked by the developers, that's the specialty, and it also has another empty slot. You can apparently collect 33 legendary armor pieces in the world. These are based on RNG, and there are also legendary armor pieces that are in set locations. These legendary items can give you big advantage in combat. For example, one of the perks can increase the amount of damage you do while assassinating an enemy. When you're underleveled, sometimes the enemies will escape the assassination attempt with a little bit of health left. This perk can solve that. If you don't like the look of your armor set but love the stats, Shadows lets you change the look of your armor while keeping the stats. It's like you're wearing an outfit on top of your armor. You can also customize your weapon a lot. You can change the handles, sword guards, mix and match everything till you find your ideal look. And you can stealth with Yasuke too, but since he is wearing these big armors, he'll make noises while moving around, the rustling noises, so you have to be really careful if you're trying to stealth with him. Jumping from rooftops and landing on the ground also makes noises. To minimize this noise, when you land, immediately dodge roll. This is a basic parkour move. This also helps with fall damage. The buildings in Shadows has anti-shinobi floors. These are intentionally designed to make noise when you walk on them so nobody can sneak up in your house. I'm pretty sure this was a real life thing in Japan at that time. With Yasuke, if you want, you can just run through these doors and break everything and kill targets if you want, since a lot of them are chilling inside the houses. Naoe is the fastest assassin out of the entire franchise. Thankfully, the delays gave enough time for the developers to smooth out all the parkour animations. There are places you cannot climb unlike other RPG AC games. For example, you cannot climb a plain wall in Shadows, which you could have climbed in other games like Origins and Odyssey. Shadows also introduces this hideout feature, which you have to build and upgrade to get access to certain features like scouts, upgrading allies, weapons, and more. This game has the Animus Hub, which Ubisoft worked on for a long time. This brings all the Assassin's Creed games into one interface, and you can jump between AC games quickly using this. Assassin's Creed Shadows will feature a new game plus later this year. probably when the DLC comes out or a little later after that. Finally, Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming out on March 20th and I get to play the game early, so if you don't want to miss those, subscribe to this channel and I'll see you guys in the next one.